Chapter 3 Shockwave. The Marathon emerged from hyperspace, and disaster struck almost instantly. Ino felt the ship lurch around her as the external camera feed flashed an alarming image. "Jesus Christ!" Ensign Pine screamed. Ino's headset filled with voices as bridge crew talked to one another. "Shipwreck right ahead!" shouted the navigator. "Collision course!" "Hard to starboard!" ordered Captain Klein. "All engines back emergency!" Ino could not take her eyes off the camera feed. Just a terrifyingly short distance away from the hyper relay, Ino could see dozens, no, hundreds of smoldering wrecks. Something had destroyed the Coalition fleet mere moments before. Smoke and flames billowed from the surrounding shipwrecks, including the one directly in front of the Marathon. "That's Basilisk!" Lieutenant Commander Barrett gasped, pointing at his own computer screen. Marathon's sister ship was pulverized. Something had torn open the outer layers of her armor, and the vessel was now drifting derelict, only a few thousand meters away from the hyper relay. "Engineering, this is the bridge! Where's the weakest point on an Azrael-class carrier?" Captain Klein said. The voice of Sota Beninato replied, "Bridge, engineering, aim for the sensor dome. It's all conduits and baffles." "Are you kidding me?" Ensign Johnson shouted. "They're gonna crash into it on purpose?" "We've got too much momentum. We can't turn," Ino called back. "Everyone hang on." "Helm, aim us high. Point us at his bow," Klein ordered. "We're gonna hit," someone shouted into the comms net. A flash of red dots caught Ino's attention, and she tore her eyes away from the imminent collision to look at another screen. The sensors had detected something nearby. "Bridge CIC, I have multiple enemy contacts on the scope." But before Ino could say anything else, Captain Klein talked over her. "All hands, brace for impact!" The Marathon slammed into the wreckage of her sister ship at speed. The sound of it deafened Ino, and she held her hands across her chest, shielding herself as debris flew across the CIC. The lights went out, and the room was plunged into darkness. "Oh, God, I'm hurt!" Lieutenant Commander Barrett yelled. "Stay in your seat and keep your belt on!" Ino yelled. "It's not over!" At the moment of the collision, the 10-forward external camera stopped working. Ino's computer had automatically cycled to the next operational camera, and she could see what the others could not. "Bridge CIC!" Ino yelled into her headset. "I've got 9 enemy contacts, 6 starships, and 3 orbital ion cannons." The enemy ion cannons were orbiting a nearby planet, too far away for any of the Phoenix Fleet ships to hit. The platforms fired simultaneously. Bright blue beams connected with their targets. 3 Coalition destroyers were vaporized instantly. At the same time, 6 frigates began diving on the surprised Phoenix Fleet, who was only now starting to respond to the ambush. "Bridge, CIC, recommend evasive maneuvers. Those ion cannons have us locked up," Ino called into her microphone. There was no reply. Alarms continued to sound in the Combat Information Center, and Ino turned her attention to them. "Is that a pressure alarm?" Ino called out over the noise of klaxons. Shit, it is," Brisbane replied. "Breathing masks on, everyone." Ino reached forward and opened a compartment in front of her. She pulled an emergency oxygen mask toward her and strapped it to her head, then checked its connection to the tank at her feet. Once she had secured her supply of breathable air, Ino noticed another problem. "Barrett, did the bridge ever call us back?" Ino asked. "Barrett's hit. He's unconscious," said the voice of Ensign Pines. Ino could not see her. The far side of the CIC was dark. "Axiom!" Ino called out. "Talk to me. What's our status?" "Emergency power online," the AI spoke in a strained voice. "CIC subsystem restoration underway." The lights came back on. Ino was shocked to see that, despite being embedded within the ship, the CIC had taken damage. The forward portion of the ceiling had caved in. A mess of piping, cables, and half of a cooling fan had fallen into the CIC, crushing 2 computer workstations and damaging a third. Several tactical officers were missing from view, but low groaning sounds from the rubble told Ino where they were. Infirmary, CIC. We have casualties. Send a team up here. Copy that, CIC, a man's voice replied. By the way, have you been able to raise the bridge? Negative, Ino replied. Must be a comms issue. The vessel rocked and shuddered around Ino, causing her to gasp sharply. We've been hit, Ensign Pines reported. Weapons impact on our ventral portside armor. There was another intercom call. Fire control tower calling CIC. We can't raise the bridge and there's bad guys shooting at us. Can we get some targets up here? Stand by, fire control, Ino replied. Prispin, grab one of the pressure suits and go up to the bridge. Tell the captain we've got a comms outage. Brisbane donned one of the emergency spacesuits kept in the CIC just for situations like this. He checked his air supply once and flashed the thumbs up at Ino, who spoke to all of the remaining tactical officers. Keep your masks on! Ino felt her ears pop as Brisbane unsealed the door leading to the corridor outside. Breathable air rushed into the CIC. Oh, that's not good, said Ensign Pines. That means the air leak is in here with us. It might be above us, Ensign Johnson replied, pointing at the gaping hole in the ceiling. What's on the deck above this room? The bridge, Ino replied grimly. She was starting to guess what had happened. As she understood the nature of the emergency, Ino began to reflexively give orders. Pines, I want you and Axiom to convert your workstation into a full weapons control station. Johnson, hack the helm and take control from your station. Why? Ensign Pines said. Won't the captain notice if we take control away from the bridge? The answer to her question came twice. First, it came from Axiom. The ship's AI spoke over the intercom, its voice grim. I cannot detect the biosigns of Captain Klein. I cannot detect the biosigns of First Officer Al-Qazi. And then the CIC entrance opened again. Prispin had returned, bringing the darkest news of all. The bridge is gone. All of the surviving tactical officers turned to look at him. The whole of Deck 1's been blown away, Prispin said. The corridor just opens into space now. Ino and her fellow officers were too stunned to speak or do anything. Axiom, however, responded quickly. Thank you for your confirmation, Lieutenant Vallant. My sensors on Deck 1 were sending conflicting data. I am adjusting the position of airtight bulkheads. Loss of atmosphere will stop momentarily. Pressure is now stable. Lieutenant Commander Esperanta, I request permission to engage Echelon Protocol. Echelon? Ino repeated as the marathon shuddered again. What? Why? In accordance with my damage control programming, I have scanned the crew and found the chain of command to be disrupted by the loss of the Admiral, the Captain, the First Officer, and the most logical successors to those roles. You are the highest-ranking section leader aboard the vessel right now. Therefore, you must assume the role of acting captain. It was the confirmation Ino dreaded. Of course, the shipboard AI would have been checking the command team's biosigns the whole time. Axiom had just been waiting for confirmation. She looked at Prispin, who swayed on his feet as the ship was hit again. Everyone up there is dead, Ino said. Garrison, Cook, Petrovich, Hicks, all of them? Prispin nodded grimly. Ino felt as though her intestines had tied into a knot, but at that moment the marathon shuddered dangerously. The movement brought Ino back to reality. There would be time to mourn later. Right now, she needed to solve the problem directly in front of her. Axiom, activate Echelon Protocol, Ino called up to the ceiling. Acknowledged, Axiom replied. As the AI spoke, all of the computer workstations around the CIC began to flicker as their screens changed. Lieutenant Commander Ino Esperanta is the commanding officer of the UNS Marathon, transferring bridge functions to the CIC. Ino took a deep breath as command and control software unlocked on her computer terminal. Okay, people. We are the bridge. Brisbane, take weapon control. Pines, you're at the helm. Johnson, sensors. Then, Ino turned her attention to the surviving TOs from Beta, Charlie, and Delta shifts. Normally, these officers worked at different times of day than Ino and her team. She started doling out assignments. Damage control coordinator. Primary and secondary sensors. You, go to the engine room and get propulsion back. You too, get our shields back online. You, I want the cloaking sails unfurled. We've got to hide. And you there, get down to the hangar base. I want a defensive screen of starfighters before we get hit again. And someone give me an update on the rest of the battle. The rest of the battle was going badly. Phoenix fleet was being picked apart by the enemy ambush. The attacking Fellowship vessels were leaving Marathon alone because it appeared to be disabled, instead focusing on the smaller escort fleet. But the crippled warship began to lurch back into motion. Working in groups of 4 at a time, the electromagnetic catapults began to throw starfighters into space. In moments, Warthog Squadron, a group of Tupolev bombers, screamed away from their mothership at high speed. In the cockpit of one of the bombers, Captain Alan Sharp used a combat laser to illuminate the target for his wingmen. All Warthogs, this is Warthog 1. Weapons free! Knock those ion cannons out of my sky! Sharp ordered. Warthog 1, Fox 3! The other bomber pilots echoed his call. Warthog 2, Fox 3! Warthog 3, Fox 3! A line of space superiority missiles streaked through the black void. A few seconds before impact, the enemy ion cannon crews realized what was happening and tried to launch countermeasures. 2 brilliant flashes of light briefly outshined the local star. 2 hits, called out another pilot. 1 ion cannon is still up. Watch out, he's turning to fire on Marathon. Ino screamed as the Marathon took another devastating hit. We've got to deal with that ion cannon, she yelled. Warthog Squadron is coming around for another pass, Ensign Johnson reported. Roddenberry's Revenge Squadron is launching from the hangar now. How many friendly ships are still up? Ino asked. Shenyang, Emden, Jakarta, Cairo, Seoul, Cape Town, Warsaw, and Madrid are still fighting, said Johnson. I've also got an allied vessel on the scope. A Sivanti battlecruiser named Adimash. She's really messed up. Looks like her sensors array is down. They're flying blind. Send Prima Nocta Squadron to help them out, Ino ordered. CIC calling infirmary. Lieutenant Tarshis, do you have a casualty count for us yet? An unfamiliar voice replied. Tarshis is dead. Infirmary took a bad hit. Who the hell are you then? Ino asked, exasperated. Lieutenant Zapata, Medical Division, replied the curt voice. Tell the captain we don't have anyone in charge of the infirmary right now and we need guidance. Ino resisted the urge to make an impatient snarling sound into her microphone. Well, as acting captain, I'll say that you've just inherited the role of chief medical officer. Get that place in order, Zapata. I'll call you back. Ensign Pines suddenly made a startled motion and waved to get Ino's attention. Chief, Captain, we've got a problem. What now? Ino started to say, but then she felt it. Ino's chair was vibrating. So was her computer console, as well as everything else in the CIC. That's not a weapon impact, Ino said. What's going on? The vibrations grew more intense. The entire vessel was shaking now. Ino looked at one of her sensor screens and froze in horror. Whatever was happening to Marathon was affecting the other ships. The space battle had come to a stop. Coalition, Augment, and Fellowship vessels had ceased firing at each other. Something was coming. Something big. In the CIC, alarms began to sound again, but this time they were unrelated to combat or damage. Hazardous weather alarm! Ensign Pines yelled. Incoming shockwave! Shockwave? Ino repeated. Ensign Pines studied her computer screen with an expression of complete disbelief on her face. Captain? I've got a Type 2b supernova on my scope, Pines yelled. But this doesn't make sense. It's huge. It's so fucking huge. Oh my god. Oh Jesus Christ. And then Ino saw it on her own screen. A rapidly approaching shockwave that moved through space like a wall of light. It had no visible curves to hint at its true size or origin point. It was simply a translucent cascade. Oh my god! Ino gasped. Shields! We need to raise shields! Axiom! Divert all power to shields! Crispin yelled. Everything now! Take it from life support if you have to! Ino gripped both armrests of her chair and sent one last message to the crew. All hands! Brace for impact!
Creeping in my sword's getting out of control. I gotta find my escape.